first introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Daphne, and Daphne Russell. I'm the founder of Book Save Lives. I live in Tucson, Arizona, and I'm happy to be here.
That's great. I love that. What is your knowledge and expertise on the quantum physics?
Interesting. Thank you for asking. So I have like a different kind of take than a physicist, I suppose. So what happened was I taught this literacy method, and as what I did was I was making kids start thinking, and they became introspective readers, and they started changing right in front of me, and I'm like, what is going on? Why are they changing? And so that was happening, and I started doing that and kind of perfecting it where I could help a kid really basically change their life. They would start reading it, and I mean, they're reading any book, but they're thinking about themselves, and boom, they change. Like, that's so strange. How is that possible? Then I started thinking about all the kids that turn out okay because they have one adult that cares about them, or they turn out okay because football, or they turn out okay because of art, right? And things just turn out. Like, what is that? So a lot of research, a lot of studying, and then a dream I had led me to, honestly, a dream where I was still asking this question: what is going on for these kids? What's happening? And I realized their beliefs changed. I'm like, wow, beliefs. Like, but where are beliefs? Where are they? Where'd they come from? I mean, I can't just tell someone, oh my gosh, this kid changed their beliefs, because they always go, yeah. I'm like, wait, I don't think you heard what I said. Like, they literally changed their beliefs about who they were. And I found that a lot of people didn't know what I was saying. Okay, well, also, I was experiencing, I played racquetball for a long time. And these guys would get upset about things that I thought were strange. And I'm like, why do you think that? Like, I played with this one guy and he just was so upset with me. I'm like, where does that come from? I didn't do anything to you. And I realized it's a belief he had, not because of me. It was just stuck there, right? So on LinkedIn, I posted what I realized, sorry, let me back up for the books. What the books were doing was it helped a child break free of beliefs that they had. And they're like, saw things differently. And I'm like, wow. So I realized all of this was happening in the quantum, where it can't be measured, right? You can't measure it. And that's, to me, the quantum is you see the result of something, but you can't see what happened in between. And that's what I loved about it. I love that, like, where is that? And I realized racism, misogyny, and xenophobia are all stuck in this quantum field in people's beliefs. So I posted it on LinkedIn, and this guy understood what I said. I'm like, wait, you understood that I just said racism is in a belief system that's stuck inside a person's head? He's like, totally got it. And I'm like, wow. And I'm like, my thing is that books, they break us free of those thoughts, right? And he and I started communicating, and he's in Texas, and his name's Eddie Dean. He created a bicycle because he was working with people who were in shelters, people who were in prison, and he was like, what happened? And they all said something happened at 5. And he's like, but it's not happening anymore. Why is it hurting you? And he realized he needed to help show people that they weren't dealing with this right now, but with the past. Like, the guy on the racquetball court wasn't dealing with me on the racquetball court. He was dealing with all of the women in his life, whoever they were, whatever, right? So Eddie created this bike that when you turn left, it goes right, and when you turn right, it goes left. And he gets people to ride the bike. Well, they can't ride it because they're dealing with the original bike where they learned to ride the bike. So they're stuck in this place in the quantum where they're stuck with this 5-year-old self, this 6-year-old memory, and they're stuck there. So that's how I became friends with him. And my quantum obsession has just stemmed from that, like realizing that if you can get a person to recognize they're not dealing with the 5-year-old bike, or they're dealing with the 5-year-old bike, and they can let that bike go, then they can deal with reality right here where they are.
It's interesting that you mentioned, you said books can change the way you think.
Yes.
Yeah. So have you ever read the book, Forgetting the Habit of Being Yourself? I think that's what it's called, by Joe Dispenza.
Yes.
Oh, you
yes.
have? Yeah.
That's actually on my 11th, in November.
Mhm.
My, I, I don't want to say who, just because I don't want anybody to know, but I mean, not to expose him, but somebody gave me, I'll just say someone gave me that book and said, you should read this. And I realized that's where all this was stuck. And I'm like, well, we can unstick that. Yes. Yeah. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Who gave that to you? How'd that happen?
How did that happen? I think I was watching a YouTube video. Yes, I was watching a YouTube video. It was called After School. That's a the channel, something like that.
Yeah.
And they had Joe Dispenza as one of the hosts. And what he was saying just resonated so deep. And I found out he had a book, and then I had a free trial for Audible, so I got it on Audible, and I listened to it, and it literally just transformed my mind because I have been stuck in repeating so many patterns in my life of doing the same thing with the outcome I didn't want, wanting to change my life, but it wouldn't change. And when he spoke about the fact that you can literally change your personality, I never thought of that before. Like, my personality is what was causing me to be stuck in these repeating cycles. But once I shifted myself out of it, and it took time, it wasn't like one
No.
day. Yeah, because it was aspects of my personality. Even then, I didn't realize I wanted to change. And I started to shift the way I was thinking, changing my personality, change the way I did things. And I finally was able to break a lot of these cycles that I was in over and over again. And actually, I thought of it even more because for me, like, one of my biggest struggles for a long time has been this poverty cycle. Like, all my adult life, I've been pretty broke. And
Yeah.
so when I remembered that book, I remember I really need to change the way I'm thinking, for one, and I need to change that broke personality that I ended up adapting. And so once I did that, I was able to finally get to where I'm at now, where I have my membership launched. I invested in myself with, going to Arlen's All Access and all of these
Right.
things. Yeah.
That is so great. Yeah. It's so crazy. Same book. Because I was like, and my thing is about books, like, it's that book did that for us that we needed then at that moment. And that's
Mhm.
my whole point about books is like, if books are not an option for a child, then because they have literacy trauma, which is a whole, part of all the things that I do, then if books are never an option, then they don't get to find Joe Dispenza, or for them, whatever it is for them that breaks them free of the cycle. So
Mhm.
that's we're talking about exactly the same thing. Like,
Yes.
your mindset was yours, mine was mine. And I'm like, nope. After that book, I'm like, I'm going to become the person I need to be in order to get the message out that I need to get out. And I'm going to do this way. And so that's all I've been doing, is trying to be me, to
Yeah.
the most me that I've ever been.
That's
And you too.
amazing.
It's so cool. That's why it was so easy for us to connect right away,
Yeah.
is because you being you and me being me, we're on the same path.
Hmm.
Like, I'm just, all the people in the room, if we're all like on our paths, we're all like, yes. People getting the other paths, that's the problem. Like, don't steer into my path. I'm good, thank you. But uplifting each other and being on that journey is so exciting. So it's so great. And
It
don't you?
is.
By the way, that book, that narrator, I tell people, people ask me about audiobook versus reading books, and I'm like, particularly that narrator. I think what he does is he lets it not be your voice, because if you read it, you're
Hmm.
interpreting the voice. But if
Hmm.
he reads it, it's someone new telling you, hey, you, I see you, and you can be different. That's the way I heard him. And I'm like, just listen to that. He has like a nice little accent. It's so pretty.
I love that perspective. I never
Yeah, it
really
makes,
thought about it like that. Yeah.
yeah, I think it helps actually the freeing. And all you're trying to do is be free. Because once you're free of the cast, right,
Yeah.
you're like, I
Oh
can
yeah.
think
Speak
now.
about that cast thing. I want to hear more about the cast.
Okay, so what happened was I read, Joe Dispenza, and then I was, so I teach my method, which I try to just help, which is what I'm, doing right now, is I'm trying to get people to understand literacy trauma and then relieve that literacy trauma and become readers. And what I realize is that we don't have a literacy problem. We have a belief problem. So it's just belief. So kids are trained to believe they can't. You know what I'm saying, right?
Hmm.
So how do I break that? And I'm like, I'm going to tell the people. So I'm telling people, and they're like, well, this kid, and well, this kid, and well, we have, and I'm like, you can't hear me. Why can you not hear me? Then I read Isabel Wilkerson's Caste, Origins of Our Discontents. And in the book, somebody had tasked her to figure out what happened with George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin. And she was like, I don't want to do that. I'm busy. I have other things to do. And then she broke down and finally started looking into it. And she's like, why did he think he could? What gave him this idea that he could monitor this other person? And she's like, oh. And then she starts talking about caste, the caste that's in India. And that's how she made that connection. And I'm like, caste. And where's the caste? It's not real. It's in make believe where the beliefs are. So I was like, I'm telling these adults who work with these kids, just here, show them how to make connections to words and do this, do that. Very simple. It's really simple. You're going to freak. You see how simple it is. And they're like, well, and I'm like, what do you mean, well? And I'm like, oh, you're all stuck in the caste. So I realized like how easy you and I can just blah, blah, blah. It's because we are broken from the caste. Uh-huh. But when you try to tell somebody who's stuck in the caste, they can't hear you. Uh-huh. So I personally, for what I want to do, I'm looking for people who have broken the caste, period. Uh-huh. Like you, I'm looking for you. Uh-huh. I want to hang out with you and talk to you because we can just talk and talk and talk. Yes. And so that's what I'm trying to do with, in Arlen's group, is trying to talk to people who are broken free of the caste. That's who I want to hang out with. And then, though, in doing that, I realized I made the transformational bridge is something for you. So you're going to meet people who are stuck in the caste. You're like, hey, because you can't get them all to listen to Joe Dispenza, right? Yeah. But you can be the role model for, oh, I used to think, and now I think. I used to, like, all the reframing. And you're going to, the transformational bridge I sent to you from Arlen's All Access, like, I'm seeing that how you could use that too. What you're doing is you're just breaking them free of the caste. Just That's it. Then whatever happens. But if everyone's broken free of the caste, how exciting is that, right? More people for us to talk to and get excited about. Everybody in the room going, oh, I'm curious, tell me more. Wait, I'm curious, tell me more. Instead of, no, you can't do that, Ayana. Don't you understand your limitations? No, I don't have any limitations. Yes. So the limitations of the caste. So that's also in the quantum, right? Yeah.
And also, so bringing it to, ADHD and depression and stuff, especially what I noticed with ADHD, depression, anxiety. I have seen this for myself. I've even become a victim to this myself before, I got into that mindset of breaking the caste. I feel like a lot of doctors, and I don't want to slam doctors, they have their place, but I do feel like a lot of doctors who treat these people also have that caste mindset. And so they come to these people with this idea that you'll always have this problem. Here, take this medication. This is what's going to help you. It's like they want them to be a forever patient because they don't want to help them. And they also see people with ADHD as having a problem. I've even noticed that with parents, with children with ADHD, they don't seem to know how to handle that way of thinking. Because I personally believe people with ADHD, especially, don't have a problem. It's just that the way that society is made, the caste is set up is not conducive to their growth and using their different mindset to their advantage. And it also, a lot of times, it leads to things like anxiety and depression. And you get in this mindset, oh, I'll always be depressed because something's wrong with me. I'll never be right. It really took me years ago. It was around COVID, actually. When COVID had hit, I was working at Amazon and I was deep in the caste. I was taking medication I was taking generic Adderall for my ADHD. And I got to a point where I was getting really high in the dosage where I was starting to hit the max limit. And one day I thought to myself, where does this end? And I saw no end to it. And so I said to myself, you know what? I want to quit. And when I quit, I had a brand new way of thinking because I actually had a spiritual way. I think, quantum and spirituality is basically the same thing, right? Yeah. Right. So I had a spiritual awakening about a year or two before that happened. And through that awakening, I began to discover myself more and love myself more and accept myself more. And so when I quit the medication, I said, there has to be a way I can make this work without me having to numb myself up or dull myself down. And that's what I did. And that was so transformative to me. And I really would love for people to see that message,
Right.
of how they can transform their mind and all of that stuff. Actually, I have a question for you. Have you ever had any experiences with children with ADHD, and have you ever used that same method outside of, just the reading, like in helping them?
Yes, I mean, because to me, I've always been, it started with my dad because he was a
Mhm.
teacher, but I've always been like pro every single child, one child at a time, right? I was never like, you guys all should be this way or that way. I just never was. I mean,
Mhm.
who knows how lucky I got that I never felt that way. So I was always accidentally releasing every kid from the caste, right?
Mhm.
Like, I was always talking about beliefs, but I didn't do it on purpose. Now I can do it on purpose, which is so much better. But the thing is, to me, all of the altering, like you're saying, I honestly, it's, people in the caste don't have evil in mind,
Mhm.
but they just don't see the other stuff. So it's like giving medication is actually, they're trying to do what's right. They just don't realize there's other ways. I
Yes.
mean, that's just the thing. That's what's so difficult about it. It's not intentional evil.
Mhm.
I mean, the caste isn't evil, but it vilifies, by the way, people who try to break free of the caste.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's what's so crazy. It's like you can get out of it. It's like, no, come back to us. Oh, you're bad. And I just thought of that last night. But I think that ADHD is really about if every kid is taught. I met someone. Oh my God, I love this woman. This woman just read my original book, Read or Die, and she said as a teacher, what she did was she told every kid, "We're going to find your talent this year. Whatever it is, we're going to find it."
Beautiful.
That's I know, and she was doing it all the time, and I'm like, oh my God, that's the key. Is like not okay. You have ADHD, great. What's your talent? You have depression. Great. What's your actual talent? Maybe your talent is sharing that and finding others who feel, who need to share theirs with you. Like whatever your talent is, it could be drawing, it could be the drums, but what if it's humanity is your talent? Like whatever your talent is, and that I think ADHD or anything else is like owning us is our only obstacle. We have to own who we are, and that's what you started on your journey. I started on mine. We're very fortunate to be able to go, wait, we're good. And that's why I follow Arlen. And she's like, shine your light, be who you're supposed to be, and see what happens, basically. And I'm like, I'm going to have to ask her, did you read Joe Dispenza? Because I don't know,
Right.
because that's who she is. So I'm like, I can't wait to ask her, how did that happen? And I know in her book, she mentions a book called The Naked Mind, by the way.
Okay.
In her book, she mentions that book. And I haven't read it, but I'm like, oh, I want to talk about that. So, yeah, being great with who we are. The cast is not that great.
Yeah.
Right? But being who we are is great. And so every single kid, I would always just like, you're amazing. And they're like, wait, me? And I'm like, yeah, what? I'm talking to you. Like, of course you are. And then I'd give them evidence, right? So they could see it. Look how amazing you are. And that's the key, is having people be able to see evidence that they are amazing is what gets them where you're going.
Oh yeah, for sure. Actually, so it's interesting. So I'm a Hindu, right? And I've done some study on the caste system because I actually learned about the caste system really young, but I didn't realize the caste system I was learning about was not the original caste system in the scriptures. And so when I learned about the caste system in the scriptures, it was actually exactly what you just described about, I'm going to figure out what that woman did. I'm going to figure out what you're good at this year. That's literally what the caste system was originally designed to be in the scriptures. And then somehow along the way, I don't know, I think it was British influence or something, completely changed it to being about your birth. And because of that, now you have to do this and that and all of that. I'm really curious to know, like, what in the world caused that to happen? Like, how did it fall so far?
That's so interesting. I could see one person going, well, you're wrong. And then the person's like, I am. Boom. Right? Then they trapped them. Then they
Really?
do it to another one,
Right.
boom, and they trap them, and they just keep trapping their minds, right?
Mhm.
And then if you're really good at it, use God as your weapon,
Yes. Hmm.
right? You do that, well, God's gonna like that person can sick God on you, like God is a dog. You know what I mean? Like that is so ridiculous. But we can be fooled into believing things, and if we believe them enough, we're stuck.
Hmm.
So, just unsticky. But I didn't know because I'm like, that doesn't make. Why would somebody go to so much trouble to write a book just to say you all should be in your place? So it's
Yeah.
interesting saying it wasn't like that, and it became that way because there's a comfortability to saying, "Oh, you're less than me."
Hmm.
Just like there's a comfortability to saying, "Oh, you're greater than me."
Hmm.
I know my place is right here in the middle. Heck no, no, I am not in the middle. And I think everybody in my life, maybe in yours too, would know that I never fit. They all laugh at me when I'm like, "Wait, I thought I was fitting." And they're like, "No."
Oh, for
Like,
sure.
really? Because I guess I stuck out a little. But anyway, I think that's the key is like, let's just have everyone break free. Break everyone free.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how beautiful that will be?
Oh,
Where
yeah.
we
We
can,
would live a lot more free life.
yeah,
Free.
and all each
Less
other, lift
stress.
each other up.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's my goal.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that wasn't the original scripture, and it's crazy how corrupt things have gotten. As far as religion goes, sometimes it's like you said, people weaponize God. It causes a lot of religious trauma with people. A lot of the caste thinking does come from trauma itself as well. I've realized, like from my parents, I notice a lot of times my parents will project their own unfulfilled desires and dreams onto
Mhm.
us, or if they didn't live it through like they wanted to, or did the things that they wanted to do, they wanted us to do it for them. And when we didn't, they were upset. And it's a really toxic way of thinking. But yeah, they had that mindset too. It was the caste mindset. You were born into this family. Now you got to be part like this family, stuff like that. It really does come from, it's like a generational thing that's passed down. You really do have to break that generational trauma or
Right,
generational curse or generational thinking, whatever you want to call it, of
right.
being stuck in this place where I can't go beyond this. And yeah, it's amazing. Actually, I have another question.
Yeah.
What, like, being that you're a woman, what do you feel like being that you're a woman, how do you feel like growing up in this system where, women are more or seen as more oppressed and all of that stuff? What was your experience with that?
I have to say mine was much different because of who I am.
Mhm.
I was raised with my dad and my four brothers and not my mom. She left when I was 5. Which I think that she wanted to break free of the caste, but had created a life that was part of the caste and that she couldn't she wrestled with those to her demise, by the way.
Mhm.
Because the caste is also reality, right? The caste is not reality, and breaking free of the caste is being in reality. You can
Yeah,
look at it that way too, right? So reality is the caste is fake.
yeah.
Anyway, so I think that I just would look at people like, I don't get why you think that, and I just never bought in to anything that they were thinking um, about me. Now, I did feel like I was supposed to fit in some different ways, which was again to my demise. But I generally didn't have the experiences that you're talking about that I think most women have because I was never treated exactly like a woman because of this more androgyny. I think the androgyny. Oh my God, that throws people off. I stepped in, I just land in Texas and I immediately get called sir, just like that.
I'll admit
I
it threw
swear.
me off a little bit too until I heard you speak.
Yeah, right. Well, and right, I know. So it's really confusing. And then I could wear. I mean, I've had my bra strap showing, and people going, "Sir," and I'm like, I don't see it, which is interesting. I don't
Yeah,
see anything. I don't see "sir" at all, but I know people do. So yeah, it's all cat. So I'm not really. I can't fit into your. I can't answer very well to that.
that's good though. That's good that you don't experience that, because I know for me, I definitely experienced. Now I've broken free of that a couple years ago. I did, or
Yeah.
actually, anyway, I broke free of that more and more, and I'm breaking free of it more and more. But I did notice, like, I started to think, man, do people like not take me as seriously, or whatever, or am I? do I actually have limitations? Like I started to buy into the limitations because I'm a Black woman.
Right.
And I know for us, we're very unrepresented as far as where I want to be in my life,
Right.
where I want to go. And that did start to weigh on me. But then one day I just, when I was recently, when I was like really struggling with finances, and I was like, man, I can't live like this no more. And I just had these big dreams and these goals, like big goals. I have big goals. I talk about it here and there, but I have these big goals. And I even remember one time I said, one day I'm coming for Jeff Bezos. I'm going to get Jeff Bezos money or more. And it sounds crazy and delusional to some people because Jeff Bezos is like, as far as societal standards go, he's the opposite of me. He's a white man, a white straight man as far as we know.
Right.
And here I am, a Black woman, and we just have different backgrounds and everything. But I was like, how am I so much different? Like, what different am I from him other
Right.
than the physical stuff, And it's
The
like,
stuff that's real, right?
say it
Yeah.
again.
The stuff that's not really real.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I have similar goals to him. I have innovative goals. I have these desires and dreams that will hugely benefit society. And
Right.
I can do that. It was like you said, breaking free of that caste. It's like I had a awakening moment. Like there's no difference for me and these rich people other than how I use my mind and what I do as far as action goes and steps go.
Right. That's it.
Yeah. And
That's it.
yeah, that was
Right.
very empowering.
Yeah, you told me that the other day, and I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Like it was after Jeff Bezos. You're like, what's the difference? Exactly. And if you believe there's a difference, see how easy that's like the cast. So if someone says, "Oh, you're not this," like, no, that's the cast. You're literally talking from the cast when you say that,
Right.
because the cast. That's what it's like. It's like the cast is this giant puppeteer, and just like, and I get it. It's like, people will say that it's like not evolution, but like how we protect ourselves in the wild or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
but we're beyond that. We can move on. We can
Right.
move on to a higher self, right? A more compassionate self, a better humanity, And so, yeah, I mean, I love that you said that. Like, we're the same. Exactly. When I tell people my goals, my crazy goals, I'm like, I just kind of look at their face and I just wait to see if it goes. Or it goes, like, shoot. They're like, thanks for your time. Peace out. I was talking to somebody on a Zoom. We're going to record the Zoom and put it out on a podcast. And they're like, then they said something so cast and I didn't fall for the cast. And they're like, oh, well, I can't believe you just said that. I'm like, okay, sorry. I guess we're not going to be friends. Because when I say literacy trauma, people get very offended if they inflicted literacy trauma. I'm saying all of us inflicted literacy trauma on some, all adult educators, all parents, the vast majority of parents and educators inflicted some sort of literacy trauma, if that's what we were trying to do.
Can you explain that a little more? Like examples?
Just put some shame in, like, oh, you didn't get that right. Used a red pen, right, on a paper, just things like that. But I mean, it's like anything. If we did it wrong and then we know there's a right, then we go, crap, I'm sorry. And you tell God you're sorry, or you tell your dog you're sorry, whoever you want to say sorry to, and then wake up the next day and do it differently. That's all we got.
Yeah.
So when somebody gets upset with me, I'm like, it's okay. I mean, I cried when I realized how bad I was teaching. I cried for half an hour, like straight bawling, because I was like, I can't believe how bad I am, and I had to grieve all the kids that I felt like I didn't do enough for, and I had to go forth changing what I was doing. So, it's not like a free ride here. There's, we make mistakes and we have to own up to them, but then we get to free ourselves,
Right. I love that you said that. It does definitely take a big level of humility to admit that we were doing things wrong in the beginning. And it's actually, that's like the hardest. It's the first step. It is one of the hardest steps for a lot of people. It really is. Because a lot of times we don't want to look, especially if you grew up in a household where you were criticized a lot, which I was. It's very hard to like have that mental breakdown or that ego breakdown and be like, damn, I really messed up.
Right.
and and grieve it. Like you say, you had to grieve it. Um, but once you do it, it's so much more fulfilling. And that's the part that I don't think most people understand is like when you break out of that caste mentality, it's so much more fulfilling. But it can be scary because it's that unknown zone. It's the humility, it's the ego dying and all of that stuff. Yeah.
That reminds me about your paper. What I learned in all of the, because I do write. So the first, what I learned, I don't want to go into all the writing, but what I learned in writing was I was blaming somebody at some point for a long time. And when I looked back at that moment, when I could have left that relationship and I stayed, I actually had to grieve that moment to let myself off the hook. Because I think forgiving ourselves for believing others, that is the key.
Yeah.
That's the key. And that you must have done that and all of that. And that's when you get your new people, they have to, that's the first step, is not blaming anymore. It's like believing them. Why did I believe them? Why did I believe that? What the heck, But going, okay, I'm through it, and letting that go, and forgiving me for my beliefs, I guess forgiving me for believing them. Yeah, that's what I realized as I was writing it down. I'm like, oh, I need to forgive not her. I need to forgive me.
Yeah.
She has her life. It has nothing to do with me. I need to forgive me for believing them. That's what it
I
came
need to
down
do
to.
that with my parents. It's a little difficult though because
Yeah.
there's definitely a certain level of expectation you have on a parent. And I feel like sometimes I still find myself blaming my parents, even though I don't say, oh, it's their fault. I do try to work towards getting better, but I do definitely bring it up more than I would like to in regards to how I still struggle with certain things sometimes. But you're
Yeah.
right. It's like, how can I forgive myself for not having the most ideal parents? I guess that's the best way to look at it.
Yeah.
And that sounds weird because I was just born into it. But
Well,
actually, I do believe, and this is where I think this is where the whole spiritual side has to come in a little more. Is I believe in reincarnation, and I believe we choose our parents when we're before we go into the next life. So I feel if I think of it that way, I can see it more like I forgive myself. No, I thank myself for choosing these parents.
that exactly.
Yeah.
I was like, I wanted to jump in and say thank them,
I
right?
thank myself. Yeah.
So think about it. If they had been different, you and I would not be talking.
That's true. That is very true.
Well, for them, exactly how it turned out, then you just that releases it all. That's the ultimate reframe, right?
It is the ultimate reframe.
Yeah. When my mom's still alive, but I don't talk to her. And I'm like, I think of the things that she gave me,
Yeah.
the good ones. And I'm like, there's no reason to harm her more by resenting her or harm me by holding on to negativity. I'm just like grateful she introduced things to my life, that I used.
Yeah.
Even I probably got the idea of even reading Joe Dispenza from her opening my mind when she was she was younger,
Yeah.
before that conflict, with reality versus, the cast. So anyway.
That's so true. I really got to get into that mindset of thanking all people, even the bullies in my life, the bad relationships, all of that. And it really does. It's very liberating because you're seeing it from a place of gratitude instead of a place of resentment. And
Right.
it's transformative. Oh yeah, where can people find you at? Yeah, there you go.
Oh, that's really sweet. Okay, so Book Save Lives is booksavelives.org, and then I'm Daphne Russell, and hopefully, things go well really soon, and it's all going to work out. But
What's the name of your book?
my book is called Read or Die. I wrote about the kids in my class, and that was my first book. I just made the visceral method is my literacy method. I just made that, and that's in a book now available too. And then I have one in the works called The Future of Education is Evolution, and that's where we're honest about education.
Awesome.
And yeah, that's in the works though. So
Is your book published?
Oh yeah, but Read or Die and The Visceral Method, those are both published right now
Where can we find it?
on Amazon. Yeah,
Oh,
a
okay.
normal book on Amazon. Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, do you have a YouTube channel?
Oh, I do. It's Book Save Lives.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Awesome. All right,
yeah.
y'all. If you want to follow Daphne, buy her book and go to her YouTube channel, all that is in the description. Thank you guys for watching. I hope to see you for another video. Peace, y'all.